Hey everyone, it's AJ the Aquarius. Today I'm back for another chit chat. Get ready with me. Now we've all had horrible roommates. It's kind of par for course, but today I'm going to talk about one of the worst ones that I've ever had that I found on Craigslist. We're talking hoarding, roaches, the whole nine. So if you're ready to hear what happens, please keep watching. This story starts a few years out of college. I'm living with a few friends in a house, but I already know that I can only stay there for 3 months and that I'm gonna have to find a new place to live. This was not news to me. So of course I wanted to start early, and I did. I made sure to ask around to pretty much everyone that I knew, all my friends, my family members. Everyone was already in a living situation and they had no room for me. So I realized I was gonna have to figure it out and get a roommate. So I started my search on all the typical apps for roommates, roommate finder type of things, and I didn't find anything. And I don't know when the idea struck me, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on Craigslist because I remember seeing that there's that housing option and people looking for roommates. I was desperate at this point. I had maybe a month, if that, to find a place, and nothing was working out. So I had to do what I had to do. I was thinking if I'm very safe with it, I'll make sure I find someone who's not going to turn me into a lampshade and everything's gonna be fine. So I found a few options, started talking to them via text, blah, blah, blah. Finally, one of my options, we're gonna call this roommate Total Rando. She replies to me and she fits all my criteria, age bracket. She says she doesn't have pets, that she wants someone who's quiet, clean, professional, etc. We talked for a few weeks and exchanged logistics, and then I decided to go see the place. So, given stranger danger and the fact that I'm not an absolute idiot and I like to watch crime documentaries, I know that I'm not going to go there by myself. So I go through my phone and I call up pretty much every guy I know and ask them if they'd come and protect me and be my bodyguard. Each and every one of them said no. They made an excuse, they said they were busy, a laundry list of stories, but no was the answer. And I was pretty much stuck on my own. In retrospect, what the fuck? Like, why would, like, you're just gonna leave your female friend who's asking you for help? And I can't reschedule, I can't keep pushing it back, I don't wanna lose the room, you know? And she's basically like, come tonight, let's get this settled, let's meet, blah, blah, blah. Going up the mountain, I get to this duplex. It's a 4-unit duplex, and the one I'm going to is at the top. And I remember walking up and thinking the exterior was kind of rough. The front of the house, she had these dead plants withering away in the sunlight as if that's decoration. And then down below, there were some kids, I would say 14, 15 years old, smoking weed on the patio. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go. We didn't exchange pictures or anything, so I didn't know who this person was gonna be. And she looked pretty decent, you know, nothing stood out to me that was abnormal, seemed just like a cool girl. I think that she was in her 30s, I think maybe like 32 at the time. So we had a conversation, discussed logistics and all the last minute things, and decided pretty much that it would work. The room was nice, the interior of the place was nice, but I did notice that she had no furniture. She only had one couch, and I thought that was really strange for someone who's been living there forever. But I'm like, okay, whatever, I need a place to live. She doesn't seem like a serial killer. I don't have time to split hairs about her furniture or lack thereof. I moved in, I'm all settled, some time goes by, and I'm like, okay girl, I'm gonna be here for a few years. We're doing it 6 months at a time, but I plan on being there for a while so I don't have to move again. And I'm like, okay, let's get some furniture because where are we supposed to eat? So I bring this up and she's like, no, I can't really afford furniture. And I'm like, well, me either, not that kind. It's not like investment moving into our first house together. I'm talking about just basics that we can use to sit on, or if we ever have guests, we need somewhere to sit. And it would be nice not to have to just live in my room at all times in order to have somewhere to be. But given her reply, that's the thing about money. You can't make someone have the money. And after bringing it up and she's still saying she can't afford it, I'm guessing she really can't if she hadn't got it already. So I go ahead and I find some furniture on OfferUp. It ended up being $80 for a full set with a table, chairs, end tables. It was beautiful and it was so inexpensive. So I bring all this stuff in here and she's super excited. And I'm like, okay, wait. Even though you said you can't afford it and you're going to be using it though, can you at least throw me like 20 bucks or something for the fact that I just bought us furniture for this apartment? She's still claiming up and down that she can't afford it and that she doesn't have money, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, whatever, taking the L on this one. I am just happy with my furniture. Now, the backstory on her finances is that she is a student, and her parents, who live in a different state, are providing her with an allowance so she can get through school without having to work. And I'm thinking so many things. Primarily, if you're a student and you're, say, 22 years old and you're going into a program for a specific occupation, all right, like if your parents can help you out, that would make sense. But to be almost in your mid 30s and still be living off of your parents because you made the decision to go through a program in which you deem too stressful to be able to work, that is kind of bizarre. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm thinking, well, if they're giving you an allowance and they know that you have a roommate and they know you have an apartment and it's not furnished, then why don't they give you money to furnish your apartment? But all right. So now we'll go into the next thing that presents a problem, which is her usage of the air conditioning. Given her school schedule, she'd leave earlier in the morning than I would and return home, I'd say 2, almost 3 hours later than I would. I am very dramatic, but when I tell you that I am accustomed to suffering, I am accustomed to suffering, okay? I lived that broke college lifestyle to the point of ridiculousness. So living in a really hot state, that means nothing to me. Like, I had my air on the highest that I could possibly have it on because I couldn't afford to live in the Arctic tundra in which I craved. I had to do what I could do. But to be fair, I understand that this is a compromise. I'm living with someone who I've never lived with before. If they're not willing to have air conditioning on 78 at all times, then I can barter here and there. But you can't have it at some Arctic temperature and then expect me to pay for that. So when I'm at home, I always keep the air conditioning pretty high. And then whenever she'd get home, she'd crank it down to the lowest possible point. And I let her do it a few times. And then the tipping point with that was when I'd go out on Saturday mornings and come home and see her on the couch in her underwear with the air on like 67. And I was like, listen, girl, I understand that your parents pay for everything that crosses your mind. But I would appreciate not paying for your comfort while you lounge around in the living room without a job on the weekend, when we're not working together to understand that every dime that I put towards the bill is coming from my paycheck from my 9 to 5. And it's very hard to afford things if I'm not being met halfway. So what happened is we started this passive aggressive war where I set the air where it should have been and go to bed. And then I get up in the middle of the night to see that she has moved it. And then I change it back. And then I go back to bed. And in the morning, she's gone. I check it. It's been moved again. And we just did that back and forth for like 2 years. And now the money games continue. We have to interject the next problem. Let's discuss the fact that this woman's buying craft beer every weekend. We're not talking just a 6-pack or something, which is $10 and it's expensive, but she's buying cases of beer on Sundays and drinking it throughout the whole week and then buying another case of beer every Sunday. And I'm thinking, gosh, like, do your parents know that you're taking your allowance and spending it on beer and you're hiking up the air conditioning bill and also won't buy furniture? So at this point, she's living the life. My coffers are being drained and I'm just like, okay, just deal with it for as long as you can. It's not that bad. Then she starts getting on the obsession of wanting to get a cat. I'm of the mind that in order to be an animal owner, you have to meet certain criteria. You need money, time, and space. Okay, you don't have the money apparently because you're just so cash starved. You don't have the time because you're in school literally all day long, 5 days a week, and sometimes on the weekends. And you don't have space because you're living in a duplex with another person who you don't really know. I could have allergies, blah, blah, blah. So I'm explaining all this to her. I'm like, girl, please no. I sought you out because I saw that you did not have animals and that you were not looking to get animals. You never mentioned wanting a pet. She's like, I know, I just want a kitty. I'm like, I get that, but I don't. I've had cats before. I've lived with cats before. I just do not prefer having animals in the house. I'm like, girl, no, it's not going to happen. This is not what I signed the lease for. This is not what I want. I would have picked an entirely different person to live with if I had known this. And then she's like, well, what if I keep it in my room? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You don't want to keep an animal confined in a small space. I'm like, you cannot do that. That's not right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You don't have the time to give this cat the attention it needs, and I'm sure not doing it. And the fact that you have to hide an animal in a room from someone means that the person that you're living with doesn't want animals, and you should respect that. So a few months go by, I laugh it off, and one day I'm in the kitchen and she comes back with a crate. In said crate is a cat. For the studio audience watching, I'm sure you could have saw that coming. I didn't. My level of fury is like prosecution level. I'm considering all my options. I'm about to look up the laws in the state as far as imprisonment. And she was like, I'm sorry. I just wanted a kitty. Don't be mad at me. I'm thinking, girl, I've passed mad. I've collected 200. I am in livid zone, livid land. So she runs in her room. She's trying to avoid me. And then she comes out maybe a couple days later and she's like, well, I just finished registering my cat for an emotional support license. I'm like, you did what? So now I'm stuck in here with the cat. We're gonna name the cat Ted. Ted is doing exactly what I knew Ted was gonna do. Okay, I'm feeling bad for it when she's at work, so I have to let it out. I'm constantly trying to make sure that it's okay and tending to it because she's not available to do so. And the cat is destroying everything that I love. It is crawling on my furniture, and the IKEA furniture is glass. So it's leaving its nasty, wet, dirty cat paws all over my glass. It is leaving its hair everywhere, everywhere. It's just a mess. I am just so mad. And there's nothing that I can do because I am not in a financial situation to get out of this lease, and the cat's there to stay. So I just have to make friends with Ted. And let me tell you, I did not appreciate it. So if you guys can't tell already, this entire living situation has been what I would call a joy. And we're gonna segue into the most glaring issue, her cleanliness. Now that Ted the cat lives there, it's on another level. Another thing that she would do is that she would not empty the cat's litter box. She'd let this cat just use the litter box and never scoop it, never clean it, never do anything. So at a point, my morning routine, besides letting the cat out, was to take air freshener and just start spraying the perimeter because our rooms were right next to each other. They're like catty corner to each other. So the odor of cat pee would waft into my room, my bathroom, and in the front part of the hallway. Yeah. So I would just be spraying the place down. Every time I would tell her, I'm like, girl, you need to take out the cat's litter box. Like, I can smell it, blah, blah, blah. She goes, can you? Can you? Oh, I don't smell anything, can you? She used to talk like a baby. That's a whole other thing. She was living in a room full of animal waste. Not even bothered by it whatsoever. This is the kind of person that you would meet on Craigslist. You think that it stops there? It didn't. She was obsessed with recycling. And I get trying to save the world and all that, but like she was always on my ass about recycling. Every single thing that I would use, she'd be right there looking at me to make sure I put it in the right can. But the thing is, she'd never take the recycling out. So I'm like, why aren't you taking out the recycling? She's like, well, there isn't a place in the complex. I usually just drive around and find a recycling bin for a company or something, and I put it in theirs. I'm like, okay, that's inconvenient, but if you're really dead set on doing this, I understand. But she'd never actually execute the mission. She'd never take the recycling out. So it would build up for months and she'd just leave it sitting there. So tell me why I start to see little bugs crawling everywhere. These bugs are coming out of nowhere. Like they're coming out of the sink. They're like on the floor, not in volume, but you definitely see like 2 to 3 bugs a day. At this point, I'm not making the connection, but the landlord comes out and she's like, okay, let me go check the other units in the duplex and see what's going on. Comes back and tells us that there's no bugs in any of the other units, it's just ours. And this girl is sitting there going, what? That's weird. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like I'm standing here looking at the landlord, wishing I could like blink twice to tell her that this girl is hoarding beer cans and cat shit, and that's why we have bugs in here, but I can't. So I'm just waiting for like, but at this point behind the scenes, I've already found myself an apartment. My financial situation is called, I don't give a fuck, I'm moving out. Just like that Reductress article, I was gonna cut back on my daily coffee if that's what it took to move out of this apartment. I was not staying another month. And so I come back, you know, and I just let her know some random day. I'm like, oh, I found a great apartment. You know, I just been wanting to move closer to my work, which is true. My drive in the morning was like 25 minutes. So it wasn't a total lie. How was that? Good riddance. All right, so I'm pretty much done with my 90s vibe look. I will do my eyelashes and my liner off camera and then we'll return. All right, I'm back, and this is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. And if you have a crazy roommate story, please leave it in the comments. I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna laugh. It happens to the best of us, you know? And until then, it's Age of the Aquarius. Bye.